Hello, Ran here, aka Mac, and welcome. So next up on my CitizenCon series, as I cover all the panels, one panel focused on the facial animation and character creation, not only for the face but also for the body too. Now it started with looking at Admiral Bishop, which is the Gary Oldman character. They used Maya before for an offline rigging. This isn't practical for Squadron 42 or Star Citizen. So a company called 3Lateral proposed a solution for runtime rigging, so running in the engine. The rig controls all of these microscopic details around the face, but instead of doing this in Maya offline, they moved it all into the engine, which has so many different advantages. Number one is a lightweight skeleton, so going from using 600 joints to only using 179. Number two is the efficient animation compression, so they don't need to store much data. In fact, they need to store 80% less data than they would do otherwise. This is all actually generated on the CPU as well. CPU performance, this can update 10 heads in 1 millisecond, which is double that of the offline rigging. And finally, the runtime animation retargeting, so they take a full performance of one actor and play it on any face model in the game. They can also have different actors' performances on the same face model as well. Now we saw another benefit from the original Morrow tour. The NPCs don't look at the player while they're talking to them. We got to see the new updated PCAP transformation, which shows the NPCs looking at the character regardless of where you're standing. They also track you and keep an eye on you and give you eye contact, which looks so much better. Now after that, they looked into something called gene splicing. They have a database with all the scanned heads, and each head has a fully working rig logic to drive the facial animation on the character. The guy we're looking at the moment is the base model, so basically you can take all the heads, and if you average them out using this gene splicing tool, you get this face. Then they can take all the different features from the database and build new heads. They can even have one side different to the other. This creates new faces in seconds. It is also likely that what we will get when we use a character creator in 3.5 with this DNA face customization, but with better UI of course. Now one of the issues with this gene splicing and the differences in the shapes of the heads was that the attachments like hair, hats, glasses, helmets and whatnot didn't sit properly. They looked into many ways to figure this out, and they came up with something called wrap deformers. This basically wraps the hair and the attachments in an elastic way to deform the attachment to fit the head. But this only works with items that are or can be elasticated. Rigid items like helmets don't look so good, so they had to rework it a little bit more to allow for multiple deformation attachments. Basically just subtly stretching and scaling it so that it's only slightly noticeable, and it does look very good. Now we saw a comparison between Admiral Bishop's head, which is artist made, so an artist has physically put that together, to a few of the gene spliced heads by a user with a customizer. It's still work in progress, but you can see they both look incredible. Admiral Bishop is a tier 0, and these gene splicing heads look very similar to that. They can use this tool to generate millions of faces. The numbers here are called the DNA matrix, and each DNA matrix is made up of 48 different numbers. Each variation is encoded with these 48 numbers, and this sort of morphing you can see continually going. So this all means that when we customize our faces, we will each look unique to the point that we'll be able to recognize each other just from face alone, which is incredible and not something you often see in games. Now the reason why they wanted to bring this tech in is they want to fill the vast locations with unique, high quality digital humans, and it needs to be cost effective and needs to be done quickly. They do want us to be able to customize our faces with unlimited choices as well, and not look generic and unrealistic. Currently there are about 122 scanned heads, all unique. They need more variety of heads. They need different, like females, males, Caucasians, European, African, Asian, young and old, normal, fat, skinny, pretty and ugly. They need it all to give us the most variety possible. So they said they think they will require about 50 to 60 more heads for each sex, and then they'll be done. There's still lots of work to be done, and it is early days for this tech. One of the challenges is that they need to render many of the screen characters at high frame rates. So lots of work is being done to ensure that it is cost effective, constantly coming up with new and good techniques and always advancing it. So it's definitely coming on very well. For us though, they need to get a UI obviously. They need to implement the persistence DNA data so that your face is stored and not lost. They also need to port all the existing attachments, which shouldn't take too long because there's not that many at the moment. They also need to replace all the non-tier 0 characters with the gene splicing system, which will obviously give it a lot better performance. Now this is slated for 3.5. It comes with female heads. They do plan to fill the gene pool over time, so adding more heads later. They will start with maybe giving it to us once they've got 10 to 12 new heads, and then they'll move up to about 50. Focus is already on moving to the body, which means not only will faces be unique, but body shape, body type will also be adjustable. Now this, personally, I find very exciting stuff, and it's coming early next year. I really cannot wait until we can start to look unique. Getting to the point where we can recognize each other just from face to face is going to be incredible. Not only that, but being able to create the face that we want and not all look pretty much the same is going to be a big step in populating the universe with people and memorable characters. I really do hope that I can get my DNA numbers for my actual face, as I was lucky enough to be scanned at last year's CitizenCon, but we will see how it goes. But anyway, that brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to head over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan, if you want to hang out with me on stream. Big shout out to my Patreons. If you want to support my channel further, feel free to follow the link to my Patreon page below. It is much appreciated. I'll see you next time, guys.